Tuesday, September 29, 2015. This is the regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Let the record reflect Commissioners Soboroff, Johnson, Figueroa Villa, Kim, and Saltzman are present, and we have a quorum. Number one on the agenda, Commission comments.
Any Commission comments this morning?
Watts Bears won big.
Do we have any speaker cards on Commission?
We have 7 comment cards. We have Red Chief Hunt, Riddell Jones, Jason Davis.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is the Red Chief Hunt. My name is the Red Chief Hunt for a reason. I'm calling for the commissioners to step up their game. Some of us been here too long, and some of us need to change. If you've been here and you're not making change, then you're not of service to the community. It's only about change in what we do as individuals that we can have changed in order to provide good service for our community. Now, with that, I'm counting on the president to really lead this commission into a healthy order and really understand the people, to go out and communicate with all the people, take their problems down, and understand if I were you. So with that, I'm really calling forth with you as a new president and believing in you that if I were you, that you would sit down and talk with all the people that have concerns about this police commission meeting, get Ford's mom $1 million without attorney's fees for the city and things like that. We need to solve problems. We don't need to be the problem. We need to solve them. Thank you. The Red Chief Hunt has now spoken.
Thank you for your comments.
Riddell Jones, followed by Jason Davis.
Thank you for your statement.
Jason Davis, followed by Charlie Koenig, Africa, Brandon Glenn, and Florencio Chaidez.
Thank you for your statement.
Charlie Koenig, Africa.
Thank you for your statement.
Brandon Glenn, Florencio Chaires, Johnny Ray Anderson, and Kai Utsumi.
Thank you for your statement.
Florencio Chaires.
Thank you for your statement.
Johnny Ray Anderson.
Thank you for your
And
statement.
the final card on this item, Kai Utsumi. Mr. Utsumi?
Let's keep going.
He's right there.
Okay, it's appears he's not here.
He's here, sir.
Oh.
Because neither this commission nor the chief does nothing to punish rogue police that's much too quick to kill unarmed, poor, black, and brown youth. This encourages more police to do the same. History has proven that. This commission has ignored many, many months of public comment on behalf of poor, black, brown, homeless, non-criminal. The object of police commission is supposed to oversee the police to prevent unjust killing by the police or any other crimes and wrongdoings they do. Both this whole body and the chief should resign. We need an elected police commission and police chief, not a selected by privileged people of this commission and chief.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your statement.
Okay, thank you. That's the final comment on this item. We're now on item number 2, report of the Chief of Police. Chief Beck.
Good morning, Commissioners. This past Friday, the mayor and I, members of the Gang Reduction Youth Development Office of the Mayor, Mothers Against Murdered Children, and multiple community members held a press conference asking for peace in the city, trying to avert some of the gang violence that has plagued us over the last several months. Unfortunately, that was not successful this weekend. We had 19 shootings in the city of Los Angeles. 12 of them were gang-related. 4 of them resulted in homicide. They were spread throughout the city. We had shootings with individuals struck in 11 of our 21 divisions. We adjusted resources. We work with the grid office, and we will continue with the strategies that have been effective over the last number of years, in addition to the expansion of Metropolitan Division and the shifting of resources citywide. Very, very tough weekend. The continued crime stats are increase in Part 1 crime, 12.6%, and an increase in homicides, largely fueled by gang homicide, of 10.8%. Gang-related crime is up in the city, 15.6% over last year and 7.3% over 2013. Traffic collisions are up in the city of Los Angeles. We've had 36,700 traffic collisions as compared to 33,000 last year. The positive news in that is that fatalities and serious injuries are down. Fatalities are down a little over 5%, and serious injuries are down right at 5%. Driving under the influence-related traffic accidents are up in the city of Los Angeles 2.7%, and hit and runs are up 14.7%. Motor vehicle versus pedestrians are down in the most serious category, down 8.5%, and bicycle-involved collisions are even with last year. So far in the city of Los Angeles, we've had 126 people killed in traffic collisions as compared to 133 last year. Sworn in civilian personnel statistics, we have 9,885 sworn police officers, 2,679 civilian personnel with 598 vacancies. We have just under 400 reserve police officers, 372 specialist volunteers, 61 chaplains, and 6,157 young men and women in our cadet program. That concludes my report.
Do we have any comment cards on this matter?
Yes, sir. We have 5 comment cards. We have Prentice Jenkins, Red Chief Hunt, Jesse Buenrostro, Paula Miner, and Black Stealth Ramirez.
Morning, Board. Morning, Chief.
Good morning.
I'd like to file a official complaint against the Los Angeles Board of Police Commission for preventing me from re-entering and attending the meeting last week. This complaint is to the President, Matthew Johnson. This is your first complaint. The Ralph M. Brown Act says that the public may comment on agenda items before and during consideration by legislative body. The time must be set aside for public to comment on any other matters under the body's jurisdiction. That's public comment 54954-3.3. You refused to let me back in. I went to the restroom. Police officers, when I came out, they were ushering me in, and your officer, Jones, stopped him. He stopped his own cops and said he can't come in. That is a violation of the Brown Act. That's the second violation that you've leveled at me. I want to make that complaint, and I also want to make a complaint against the Los Angeles Police Department for stopping me from coming in. This is absolute violation of the Brown Act. You continue to violate the Brown Act based on what the Brown Act says. They wrote the Brown Act for you folks so you wouldn't violate it against us. And you continue to violate it against us. You can't make up the rules. The rules are made up for you. Believe it or not, there are meetings like this going on all around Russia and China. The difference is we allow the public in ours. They don't. What do you want to be? You want to be like Russia and China?
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Better known as the Red Chief Hunt, on this issue, the statistics. I'm part of the statistics. 70 times being arrested, that's part of the statistics over bullshit. I'm surprised that your gang problem is not even higher because you don't have jobs for these people. If I'm getting arrested for working, I really understand how the gangs member feel. If you had jobs for them, you wouldn't have that problem. And that's the outreach that the commission doesn't see or go get involved in. People having jobs. The statistics. Well, when Chief Beck came out of Mayor Virgosa's house, he said he's going to stop all that tic-tacky policing. Well, I've got 20 tickets after they gave me $215,000, and that's retaliation. And it's only because my skin color. Now, I can't go in the local office and file a complaint because I'm black. This is a known record. I'm the only African-American that got a ticket from the city of Los Angeles that said, fuck white niggers too. What penal code is that? You can check it out at the office. I asked Bustamante to give me a call back. He never did. Thank you, Matt Johnson, for giving me a call back. Tiki, your seat. If you're not going to make change, you've been here 10 years. If you're not going to make change, if you're not going to go out to the community, and if you're not going to make production, you're the oldest guy here. Come on, give it up like John Mackey did. Charles Beck, either you need to retire or you need to hold your promise as when you came out of the mayor's house. You don't arrest somebody for working. You don't arrest somebody with a seller's permit for working. You can never solve the gang problems, and that's the highest statistics, if you don't go out and give them jobs. And that's the bottom line. If they had something to do, they wouldn't be a problem. And this is what you fail to realize. Democrats solve problems and put people first. Jobs and Black Lives Matter. Thank you, the Red Chief Hunt.
Thank you for your statement.
Jesse Buenrostro.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, it has been a discredit to the LAPD and dishonoring the uniform of shooting and killing a handicapped, mentally ill woman in a wheelchair. That's a coward's way of protecting and serving the community. We must put a stop and end to this kind of policing. We need housing for those kind of people, not by killing them or putting them in jail. $100 million was given to help the community and not taken away from the community. Instead, it was given to the LAPD to get the kind of work of criminalizing the poor instead of helping the poor. Stop this corrupt LAPD of what Christopher Donner wanted to say all along. We need a better policy. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Paula Miner, followed by Black Stealth Ramirez.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commission. The last time I spoke before you was right after the shooting of Riddell Jones. I am back again because in approximately 6 weeks, another homeless, obviously mentally ill woman was shot by our LAPD officers. This occurred this Sunday at 21st and Main, and her name was Norma Guzman. I'm speaking after the report of the chief because one of the items is significant incidents and activities that occurred during the period of September 22nd to September 29th. Her shooting was a significant incident. It is interesting to us that the chief did not mention that, since concern about officer-involved shootings has been something that we've been talking to the commission about for over a year. Again, I'm sad. Again, I don't know if there's anything that we can do. I think the commission should be aware that today LAPD forced us to enter the back entrance of this building. We could not enter from First Street. We had to walk halfway around the block. Why? Again, this is the kind of response the community gets. And you notice that many of our people are coming up not speaking because the commission has got the message out that they don't really want to hear from us. So another thing I just want to mention too is about the information that's presented to the public online. I'm sure LAPD knows is the LAPD police report, where official report referred to members of Black Lives Matter as freaks, that an officer had to go out and participate in arresting or going to see what the freaks were doing. This is online. I mean, this is the kind of, in here we get the civil response from LAPD. That's not what's happening in our community.
Thank you for your statement.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I was taught to respect all authority or anybody in high positions, but that's the Mexican way back in the good old days. When you, the authority and officials, pander to criminals like the gangs, the wetbacks, and the black pimps and the white trash junkies, and deny equal protection of the law and due process rights to the honest, law-abiding citizens or the injured parties, those who are bullied, then guess what? It all backfires as we are seeing now. You are getting all these gangbangers now attacking you. Now, having said that, I would also like to see on crime statistics, there's a segment of population like myself who are homeless, who don't talk out of our gluteus maximus, but come here and tell you we are homeless because we are victims of crime. And one of the big ones is gang stalkings. And I would love you all to Google search the retired ex-FBI agent, Ted Gunderson, who speaks on YouTube regarding gang stalkings. We are subjected night and day to theft, vandalism, assault, invasion of privacy, and gang stalkings. We are harassed night and day wherever we go by blacks and by browns and lesbos. At least it has been in my case and many other women who have been victims of crime as well. But nobody talks about that. No one talks about that. Again, I am part of humanity. And I do not pander to anybody, but I stand up and I chase the blacks and the browns and the lesbos back and forth on the perimeter of Broadway, Spring, and First and Temple at the Grand Park. And again, we are subjected to abuse night and day. God bless the police officers. You've got some great officers, and one day I will give them credit, like Officer Morris and Officer Marco Duarte at the LA City Hall. God bless them. You know, there are good men, and like William Chief Bratton, God bless them too. So you see, God bless Donald Trump too. Thank you.
Thank you for your statements.
There are no other comment cards on this item, sir.
Excuse me, gentlemen. Excuse me, gentlemen, but you have to remain seated. Gentlemen, I'm asking you to please sit in your seats.
Your disdain and disrespect for our community is egregious, reprehensible, and criminal. And we in LA Kansas City is unacceptable. We're calling on your
You're being disruptive. This is your first warning.
We say without equivocation that indeed Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives
Sir, please sit down. You're being disruptive.
Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter.
Sergeant at Arms, please remove the six individuals who are standing.
Black Lives Matter. 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 No more, Chief Jack. No more. No more discrimination of our community. No more you continue to get away with doing nothing. No more.
Sir, you're being disruptive. Please sit down.
You have committed 17 murders just this past month.
Sir, I'm asking you to leave.
That is not to be tolerated.
Sir, please leave. You're being disruptive.
We also want your explanation as well.
Okay, let's move to the consent agenda.
Okay, we're now on item number 3, consent agenda items. These items are considered to be routine and non-controversial, upon which the board is provided with adequate information for approval without inquiry or discussion. We do have a comment card on item A and item F. Would a commissioner wish to put any other item special for discussion?
Move approval of items 3B, C, D, E, G, H, I, J, and K.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, we do have the one sorry.
Call the comments, please.
We do have one comment card for
3A.
3A, Prentice Jenkins, Red Chief, and Black Stealth Ramirez.
So three cards on item
Yes.
3A? Okay, thank you.
It's Prentice Jenkins, activist since 1991, publisher of City Life newsletter. Also, like to acknowledge Black Lives Matter, the freaks that you call them. I'm sure they call Martin Luther King a freak too. You say the consent agenda items are considered to be routine and non-controversial, upon which documentation provided to the board is adequate to give sufficient information for approval without inquiry or discussion. How do we know they're not controversial? We never get to see them. The public never gets to see these agenda items. Is it possible for you to post those agenda items out there or put them on the agenda to determine whether they're actually controversial or not? These agenda items may be talking about Ezell Ford or Brendan Glenn murdered by LAPD. And when you say these are non-controversial, how does the public know that they're not non-controversial? We'll never know that. And you continue to vote on them and it says, without inquiry or discussion. We don't get to discuss these agenda items. So here again, it looks like you're hiding something. What are you hiding when you're talking about these consent agenda items? What the hell is a consent agenda item? Can someone explain that to me? I'd like anyone on the board to give me an explanation of a consent agenda item that's non-controversial. Let me see one that's non-controversial. Let us all see one that's non-controversial, because we don't trust the board. When you do stuff like this, you get no trust in us. When you say that you got a consent agenda item and you consider it to be routine, how the hell do we know it's routine? I mean, someone's got to show us these consent agenda items. If you don't show us these consent agenda items, we're just going to continue our suspicion about the board, because this looks like it's covering it up.
Thank you for your comments.
Now, the Red Chief is getting ready to speak on it. Okay, now. To enforce launch to reduce crime. Well, it's a crime to put people out of the meeting and not have some kind of outreach for them. That's a crime. I think going to Washington is nice, but I think solving the problems in L.A. is even better. Going to a meeting, spending the tax people's money is great, but if you launch to reduce crime, then you don't really understand what crime is about. Crime is about jobs, community-based policing. And if you have to go to a meeting to find out what community-based policing is, I think you ought to resign. And this is what we're talking about with the gangs, to reduce crime, launch at a meeting that you need to go to Washington for, and it's on the agenda. How much is this going to cost the taxpayers? It doesn't say. What else do we have to believe in when crime is up in L.A. and this weekend was our worst weekend? People getting shot and people getting killed instead of people getting jobs. I think we need to refocus and reframe what we do here. And some of us is too old to be here, and some of us needs to upgrade what they do. But let's reframe this to reduce crime. The only way you can reduce crimes if you have jobs for the people, and that's called community-based policing. And when you go out and arrest people for working, Chief Beck, it doesn't make any sense. I'm a 9th Circuit winner, and I'm still getting arrested for working. And this is where you feel this is part of the crime statistics, and you can't reduce crime by arresting people that work. That's the only way you can reframe that. I am in charge of L.A. now. I'm going to be taking over, and you need to start listening, and very succinctly start listening. Jobs matter.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much. Good morning. We have a gang epidemic, wetback and gang epidemic. If we thank God for Donald Trump, who's got spit, a flaming torch of a leader that will help us reduce the crimes by deporting these illegal wetbacks and gangbangers who perpetuate 99.9% of the crimes. Now, for those of us who are victims of crime, We have been subjected to abuse and violence and theft, property crimes, financial crimes, and personal crimes and property crimes. And again, who did we call? We called the LAPD or the Sheriff's Department. But much to our dismay, many of the police department officials were also gang members themselves. Many of the police officers will have their tattoos on their arms or shoulders, and they would signal to their homies, you know, they are members of gangs. And lately, that is being corrected. But ladies and gentlemen, we do have a problem where we, as victims of crime who are now homeless, we try to go to law enforcement for help. But because we don't use violence and we're not drug dealers and we are not the enforcement tool, we ended up being shuffled around to the point of homelessness. So again, I want to stand up and let you know that the homeless people who are not mentals, who are not wetbacks, who are not gangbangers, who are not drug dealers, we're going to stand up and we're going to voice and show the world that we are a great asset. We are a great group who are standing up, who know the inside of homelessness and the streets and the gangs. So we are going to show the world what you people have hidden. Now, again, there's good officers. We're going to weed the bad ones out. And again, thank you. We need law enforcement like William Bratton, Chief William Bratton, who had spit. He's a New Yorker with spit. New Yorkers usually do. We need someone like Donald Trump to take these gangbangers and napalm their asses out of here. Thank you.
And we have no other cards on 3A.
I'm sorry, that was the final card?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have a motion on item 3A?
Move approval of item 3A.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, we do have one card for 3F.
3F, please call the card.
We have Black Stealth Ramirez.
Thank you very much again. We are asking that the police department be fully equipped. The police department is starting to change their tune. They now have the gangs on their backs. They now have all the criminals on their backs. Now they know how it feels to feel and be a victim. You now know what it feels to be a victim. And it's taken a long time, but boomerang, payback is a bitch. It all came back to bite. I'm sorry for those who are good people and don't deserve this. Good officers have been killed in the line of duty. I'm sorry for them and their families. But we do need a task force. We need the monies to start coming now to benefit several of the University Park task forces, because I believe now the police officers are going to utilize that money more efficiently and more concisely, and they will implement better, more practical, more efficient, and more efficient ways of handling crime. So please, we need what we do need, and what is lacking in the LAPD is leadership. We need someone with spit, someone with integrity, someone with goddamn huevos, someone who can stand up and say right from wrong. No more pandering. No more pandering like Donald Trump. Utilize that, incorporate those two right and wrongs, merge them at like a symbiotic relationship, and go for it and go after these gangs. Start doing what is right and you will feel good, and you'll be off the Prozac, the Zoloft, and all the other psych meds. Again, let's do what is right. Chief Beck, you know what is right. You just haven't done it. Okay? Now, what we are asking that the task force be fully provided. Funding needs to be given to the LAPD. There's now a new form of mentality, because you've been victims too. Thank you. God bless Donald Trump and the military.
Do we have a motion on item 3F?
Move to approve item 3F.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Move to the regular agenda items, please.
Item number 4, regular agenda items. We do have three comment cards on 4A. Would the commissioner wish to pull B or C as special?
Move approval of items 4B and 4C.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's go to item 4A.
4A, Inspector General's report dated September 29, 2015, relative to the investigation of the Los Angeles Police Department's procurement practices. We have 3 comment cards. We have Red Chief Hunt. Black, Stealth, Ramirez, and Ted Hayes. Would you like them after?
Yeah, let's hear the report first.
Thank you, Commissioners. At the table from my office are Assistant Inspector General Jim Willis and Special Investigator David Barroway. They were the principal investigators in this case. Just to give the Commissioners a little background, several individuals from the department had come to us with some concerns about the procurement process, which prompted our investigation into the most recent procurements by the department. We identified two primary concerns that we believe boil down to strengthening the procurement process as well as educating the individuals involved in that process. During the end of our investigation, we met with Mr. Alarcon and his staff, and the department was very engaged in the process, trying to determine the best steps forward to improve the process, the procurement process, as well as to find ways to make sure that that some of the things that we saw in this case did not occur again. The recommendations that we have, which I believe is a starting point for changes to this process, are referenced in the back of the report, and my staff and I are here subject to any questions you may have.
I'm interested to hear from the department on your thoughts on the recommendations and next steps.
Certainly, and we appreciate the information that was provided by the Inspector General on this and the communication, in particular with the investigators. I do have to say at the outset, though, that the department respectfully disagrees with the characterization, the analysis, and the findings in the report. We take issue with various things and believe that the full context of what occurred is not adequately laid out in the report. With respect to the recommendations, we generally accept some of them. We would seek modifications with respect to the responsibilities for Policies and Procedures Division. In particular, Policies and Procedures Division would not necessarily coordinate, well, certainly they do not initiate testing and evaluation or product evaluations. They would coordinate and they would track and they would monitor the testing and evaluation of certain types of products. It's been the practice of the department for other specialized types of equipment, such as motor vehicles, where they do testing and evaluation through a consortium of other departments who test vehicles, and also IT products, where generally they'll go through a request for proposal as opposed to a bid, that those are generally not tracked by Policies and Procedures Division. So we have some proposed language to make that amendment to that. With respect to the other recommendations, many of them we've already done, for example, creating checklists and ethics advisement forms. We had already been undergoing a revision of the product evaluation manual back in 2013. We were waiting for the report from the Inspector General to proceed with that. And there were some suggestions of including the specific codes that are in the ethics code, which is certainly very doable. I do want to mention, though, that we do have what we would consider a robust code mentioned, not only in the product evaluation manual, which talks about and cites the state law on conflicts of interest, but also in the manual on conflicts of interest, as well as the law enforcement ethics code that is taught in the academy, et cetera. Chief Murphy can talk about the training that we've already done and that we plan to do specifically on conflicts of interest and the very unique requirements of the filing of statements of interest that are required by certain personnel who are required to file what's known as the Form 700 filing that I'm sure all of you are familiar with.
Yeah, let me recap this real quickly. Constitutional policing actually tracks the positions and the persons who need to file a Form 700. As part of that process, you have to go online. There's a 2-hour training involved in it. We believe we need to do more than just that. So we contact the city's Ethics Commission, talk to their trainers over there. They've agreed to come over here, and we will take that entire list. They will do a face-to-face training on the ethics rules to all of those. In the future, we will also have them come to our command development. It's where we develop our new captains and commanding officers. They will be given presentation time, so they will actually be able to deliver face-to-face that. So there has been training involved, but it's really e-learning, and it's probably best that we move it to the next level, which is face-to-face.
Thanks. I have some general comments and questions.
Lean into the mic, Kathy.
Oh, sorry. I have some just general comment and a couple of questions. And I thank the Inspector General for bringing this issue to light. Overall, it's an important issue. Conflict of interest and procurement process is something that needs to be streamlined and something that needs to be more transparent. So I thank the Inspector General for bringing that to light and advancing that issue. And I'm glad that the department is taking that seriously and making movement towards that. Now, my more specific questions, because I think that what was revealed here is deeply troubling, and with respect to the factual development that the Inspector General's report provides us with respect to the procurement of the Glock versus the Smith & Wesson. Mr. Alakan referred to some factual statements in the report that the department has disagreement with. In order for me to better understand where I might raise questions, I'd like to know some examples of what you're addressing.
Well, what I was talking about is the characterization of certain things and then other information that's not included that would provide a better context of what was going on. I think it would be helpful to kind of break this down into three areas. First, there's the testing and evaluation of the firearms that's conducted by the subject matter experts. The second part is actually the procurement or acquisition and going through the bid process. And the third are the ethical concerns that the IG has identified about police officers using their own funds to purchase weapons, in this case from the Smith & Wesson Holding Company. In terms of the testing and evaluation, the protocol of going to what was then called Planning and Research Division did not occur. That's required in the manual. That should occur. But I think it's important to understand the purpose of that is so that PRD, and now PPD, can track who is doing testing and evaluation of various products, so that we don't have one part of the department doing a testing and evaluation while the other. It also helps because they would provide information about what the ethical rules are in terms of relationships with vendors, et cetera, during that process. And that did not occur. Once that was brought to my attention, I immediately put out a notice to the entire department about making sure we comply with that. Chief Murphy and Captain Hayakawa provided training to all of Training Division to make sure that we're complying with that. And I've announced at various meetings, and we've seen an increase in more compliance. But at the end of the day, PRD would have returned that entire testing and evaluation to the subject matter experts, which were the people in the firearms and tactics section. There were two T&Es, as we call them, testing and evaluation. Chief Murphy can talk to more details about that and the context of that and why we did that. But let me just jump forward, and I think what's the way it's characterized in terms of the department requesting a sole source. A sole source is when the department finds a product that it believes, after pretty rigorous testing and evaluation, is the preferred piece of equipment because it satisfied a number of criteria that it goes through in the testing. There is no restriction against any department to request a sole source for a product. In fact, the charter provides for it, the rules and regulations that provide for it, to go to GSD, the General Services Department, and through the city attorney with the advice and counsel of the city attorney to try to get that particular weapon because it's unique. In this situation, based on the testing and evaluation, they went initially it was originally the Smith & Wesson based on the testing, to General Services and the city attorney and sought to have it sole source because they believe, based on the testing, it was the superior weapon. And obviously firearms are the most important piece of equipment to a police officer, especially since it's literally a life and death piece of equipment that needs to be maintained. GSD said, no, you can't. The rules prohibit it because there's another weapon that would meet the basic specifications. Now, one thing to keep in mind, there's a difference between meeting the basic physical specifications and the service and the performance. And the department was going based on the performance. Chief Murphy can talk about why the other testing, but just the characterization that the sole sourcing was somehow improper for the department to request is just not accurate. And there is no harm in the asking. It is up to the discretion of General Services and the city attorney to determine whether it will qualify under the rules and regulations.
What about the second and the third time?
The second time, why don't you go? Well, it was the same circumstance, but I think Chief Murphy can explain why.
Let me go bullet by bullet so you sort of understand the history of it. First of all, it all begins with really a problem with the Glock weapon itself. Back prior to 2010, probably around 2008 or so, we had to recall the entire Glock inventory because the striker is, to explain it, the striker is the object in the weapon that hits the bullet. If it doesn't strike with enough force, the gunpowder doesn't catch on and the bullet doesn't go out. So you could pull the trigger and then nothing happens, which is tremendously problematic for police officers, especially if they're in an officer-involved shooting situation. So that was a big deal. And to my knowledge, I don't believe we've ever recalled to that level every weapon we had out there. So we were having problems. We were having problems with their 40 caliber weapon to the point where we actually stopped issuing the 40 cal and went to the 9mm, which we had significantly less problems out there. And the 9mm is actually a little bit easier gun to use. It doesn't have as much of a kick. With the approval of OAS at the time, we requested pistols for testing. So we went out there, and there were only 3 entities that created striker-fired pistols. So we got all of them to give us a weapon, which included Glock and actually Smith & Wesson. Did the test. This is the first one. And you have to understand at that time, too, we had created the handgun testing protocol manual that sets the specs for testing for this. We had never actually done this before. We had spent years creating this manual. It was very important for us to do it, so when we did a test, it would be the very best test out there for each particular weapon. So that was done. At the test results, when that had come in, Smith & Wesson was the best at that particular time. That's when we decided to go sole source. This was approved by OAS, assistant chief, up to the top of the department. I think even maybe Chief Beck might have even been told about it. What had occurred at this point is we have a very good relationship with the Sheriff's Department because we both buy in procurement a lot of items. So it's common that we'll do a Me Too clause on a contract, which would say if they negotiated or we negotiate a contract, we'd get the same sort of pricing. They had already gone to the Smith & Wesson weapon, and their academy staff started telling us that there were some issues with that particular weapon. When we heard that, we said, wait a second, let's go ahead and do a second test on it, and that's what we did. And at this time, too, Glock had realized they're about to lose the LAPD, which is a big, size-wise it's big, but also our name behind a particular weapon would be a lot. A lot of agencies would follow our lead. So they went back, and in their Generation 4 weapon, they fixed all the problems. And they came to us and asked us for a second retest on it. So with the issues on Smith & Wesson, we did the second retest. Now, the Glock weapon performed much, much better. In fact, it was at the same level of the Smith & Wesson. And the reason we went back a second time for sole source on the Glock, we had a 9 or 10-year history with it. It'd be better. We only wanted the best weapon for the officers out in the streets. And because we had this long history, there are other issues you need to consider, like logistics, how many weapons we have, maintenance of it. When we take a new weapon and we approve it, that means the officers are going to have to buy a holster. There could be new training programs. So in the best case, you'd want to just stick with the weapon. And since they improved it, that was what happened the second time. We went to General Services, and again, I've got to tell you, asking for a sole source, there's nothing inappropriate of that. It's General Service. They're the ones that make the determination. We could request, and they can say no, and this happens. There's nothing sinister about that at all. They said you can't do that. We have to go out to bid because there are other striker fire weapons out there, and that's exactly what happened. It went out to bid. It was a reverse bid. We have nothing to do with that bid process. It's run by General Services. Glock ultimately won that process. They outbid, lower price on the weapon. And what ended up happening at that time on the contract, unfortunately for Glock, is their agent had wrote on the contract. In fact, he checked one of the boxes that said if you check this box, you're going to be non-responsive, which means you're going to take yourself out of the bid. That really cost them that contract because, and there were some problems. I think a General Service agent made a mistake. Quite frankly, he sent out the letter because Glock had the lower bid. He thought they would win it. He didn't realize he hadn't checked the contract, that they made a mistake and wrote on the contract. They brought the city attorney in. The city attorney looked at it and made a ruling that it was non-responsive. when this occurred, it caught everybody by surprise. To be perfectly frank, we had thought that Glock was going to win it. So when Smith and Wesson won it under this circumstance, we weren't prepared. We had nobody except the people who shot those weapons with experience in the testing. So it created problems. And we can get into private purchase, but that's kind of the history of that.
Okay.
And I should just note on page 4 where it talks about what Chief Murphy had mentioned, it also talks about there was an email from GSD to asking about the position of the warranty, and that there was a discussion by the FTS personnel about whether that change in the Glock, what is a lifetime warranty, and there was a discussion about that. That also would be fairly typical that the city attorney or GSD would want to know, is this a distinction without a difference? And there was a response to what that individual and what the department thought. And the city attorney, and for their reasons, decided otherwise, that it was best to say that they were non-responsive, and that's how the Smith & Wesson M&P was awarded.
Well, I certainly want to give the Inspector General an opportunity to respond to your explanation with respect to sole source. But my other two questions have to do with what the role of the PPD is in the evaluation and approval process, as well as the ethics concerns that were raised by the private purchase of the discounted weapons. So those to me seem like problem areas. And
Sure. So Policies and Procedures Division under the manual section 3/270, there's a set how product evaluation procedures are supposed to be conducted. And in that, if any employee wants to do a product evaluation, they are required to go through their chain of command, and they should indicate what's the available preliminary data on it, a description of the need for the product, and any history of contact between that employee and a vendor. Policies and Procedures Division would look at that, see if anybody else is doing something similar, or if they recently did it, and then approve to go forward and approve the methodology in doing that testing and evaluation, which in many cases would be really relying on the subject matter experts. Now, there could be circumstances where an employee in one of the areas said we should really try this, goes through their captain, it comes to PPD, and they would say, yeah, we should, but that should be done by training division. And so they will refer to training division to go do that. They would not necessarily be approving whatever the testing and evaluation said or whatever the recommendation would be.
But what about the bidding process?
So the bidding process, PPD would normally not be involved with that process. That would be with GSD and sometimes through Fiscal Operations Division, also in conjunction with the subject matter experts.
And so that and how does that affect the IG's recommendations in going forward for the role of the PPD?
Well, in terms of the testing and evaluation, we agree, and the manual already provides that they should be involved, they should be notified, and they should be tracking. Whether they should be involved in the procurement process, it would be an additional responsibility that would be unique. And quite frankly, they're not qualified. They're very qualified in doing many things, but actually on knowing the procurement and other rules. One of the things that we would recommend as part of additional recommendations, or may even be mentioned in there, is that Fiscal Operations Division is always involved when we have a bidding process in a contract. Now, they are not always involved in other types of technology, but any type of goods or services, goods, durable goods and other things should involve FOD as the sort of conduit with the city attorney and GSD.
If I could just share a department's response on my last question with respect to the ethics concerns with the private purchase, and then I'd like to hear the Inspector General respond to
the ethics issue?
Private purchase.
Yes, so why don't you explain how private purchases work with the department?
Okay, there's two ways I'll explain it. One is what happened in this one. First off, let's begin with it was a past practice to allow the firearms unit to private purchase arrest from a vendor. It was. And we don't do this frequently. We're in the revolver from 1869 to 1989. 1989, we went to the Beretta. First time we went to a semi-automatic weapon, a 9mm. So that was the first time, really, in modern history, we went to it. The firearms unit was allowed back then. That was 26 years ago to purchase off the vendor. When we went to the Glock, which was 2005, our second time going to a weapon, they were also able to purchase from the vendor itself, from Glock. They were actually able to private purchase the testing weapons from it. So we did have a history of that. Smith & Wesson or any vendor would sell to a firearms unit. It's been done before. That's not inappropriate that they would do that. And it would usually be a cost that Smith & Wesson or the vendor would set. It wouldn't be negotiated by the police officers. It would be a price that would be given to them. Now, in this one, what we want to do, there are a couple other things. And by the way, all of this was approved by the OAS assistant chief level. What the fear was, again, going back, no one knew that Smith & Wesson was going to get this contract. Everybody thought Glock would get it. They made the mistakes that cost them the contract. And if Glock had got it, we had a long history. All our instructors had a history with the Glock, so they were very familiar with the weapon. Going to Smith & Wesson, we were in the middle of a budget cycle. You only had given so much money to buy guns at that particular time. They had enough for about 200 Smith & Wessons. They bought that. The problem with that is that we at the time, an academy class might be 35 to 50. We don't know who's going to show up that first day, that the hiring process is not the training process. And so the fear was with that 200 or such a small amount of weapons that if we did give it to the instructors, we might have to pull them back because you could not give out every one of those weapons. You have to have an inventory always of the weapon in case a weapon breaks out in the field. And so that was the fear, that they didn't have it. And so they went ahead and with the blessing of an assistant chief, were able to purchase these at bulk. At a discounted price, yeah. And buying 67 weapons as opposed to one single, I think business people would tell you it'd probably give you a cheaper price anyway on a bulk purchase. So.
And if I could just address the discount and then the ethics rules and how they apply. The weapons that the M&P stands for military and police, and this particular weapon that was purchased, as are Glocks, et cetera, are not weapons that you could buy on the open market as a private citizen. In part because California has very strict gun safety laws, and there are features that are required on any type of non-law enforcement weapon that don't exist on their weapons. For example, there's something called the magazine disconnect, which means that if the magazine is released from the weapon, a police officer can still pull the trigger and it would fire a round that's in the chamber. You cannot buy that gun unless you're a police officer. So any officer can go out to a number of vendors and buy that weapon at whatever that law enforcement, whatever that market price is. There is no discount from what a normal citizen could go and buy because it is not available in the state of California to anybody else. The discount that you might be, that I think has become an issue here is that the firearms instructors were able to purchase as a group the weapons from Smith & Wesson Holding Company at a price that is lower than a police officer would be if they went to a store where they would have to show their ID, et cetera, to purchase the weapon because of it doesn't have those safety features. I think one of the areas that we disagree with the analysis is that the IG concludes that Smith & Wesson Holding Company is a restricted source. Now, in order to be a restricted source under the ethics rules, you have to have entered into, performed under, or sought a contract with the agency. The contract was not awarded to Smith & Wesson Holding Company, the manufacturer. The contract that was entered into between the city was with Adamson Police Products, which is a distributor. It is not the contract with Smith & Wesson. And as a result, by that definition, just the plain reading, it would not be a restricted source. But even assuming it was a restricted source, just for the sake of argument, that does not mean that getting a discount from a restricted source is an ethics violation. In fact, the ethics rules say for those people, and in this case there were 8 people out of the 42, who are Form 700 filers, they can accept a gift up to $100. And so basically, when you look at the numbers that are provided by the IG, the overall discount that they got was $125. So it would be that extra.
But some of those people bought multiple guns, right?
That is true. That is true. So as a total, the 8 multiplied by how many guns were purchased, and we don't know. Well, I don't specifically know how many, but that is the ethical concern. But that's assuming that Smith & Wesson is a restricted source.
Well,
and I can address the multiple gun issue just so you're clear on that. What we were buying the 9mm to give to recruits in the academy. However, in service, we were going to approve the 9mm, the 40mm, and the 45. And in service, you can choose which weapon you want. So it would be beneficial for our firearms instructors to buy those weapons, become familiar, because they're going to have to teach them to the in-service veteran officers. If you want to go to that weapon, you have to go to Striker Fire School and take a 40 or a 45. So there was nothing sinister about buying different types of calibers. They would have to teach with those weapons in the future.
And also, once this weapons system was approved by the department, any police officer, not just firearms, but any police officer was authorized to go and purchase the gun from wherever they found that weapon at a price point that they thought was reasonable.
But not at the discount.
Well, that's the issue, though. Is it a discount, or that's the price that they gave to the people who asked for it? And in this case, they had a price.
But didn't the department ask for that price for everybody and was declined?
That's true, because sometimes manufacturers do not sell to all private purchasers. If there were 10,000 people individually asking to get a price.
I have a quick question
Sure.
to that.
Yeah.
Did the FTS personnel get approval from authority to purchase those 67 weapons, or did they just do it on their own?
They received approval from an assistant chief, yes.
I think that the concern with a subset of department employees purchasing the Smith & Wesson weapon at a discounted rate is the appearance of impropriety in order for Smith & Wesson to gain a quid pro quo benefit in contracting with the department. The contractor, the role of a contractor, Adamson, is simply one step removed, but I think the spirit of this ethics ordinance is intended to prevent the former of what I described. And from a risk management perspective, it seems that the department would share this concern.
Well, we would certainly we're always concerned about the appearance of impropriety. I think one thing that's important to note, though, is that the contract had already been awarded. So there was no open bid. There was nothing going on. There was a lengthy contract that had been done with Adamson Police Products. So the concern that it looks like they're getting a discount to influence under the ethics rules wasn't the case. Now, the fact that they gave it to a subset, certainly that is something we would want to find out what were the exact ramifications. But we also know that Smith & Wesson gives some similar price, we don't know precisely what, to other departments for firearms instructors. In fact, it's very common for manufacturers to give it to armorers and other people who become very familiar with a number of guns so that they can train and make sure that officers are very competent and confident about the weapons that they have. And ultimately, I think in retrospect, I think these officers, to get an extra $25 off, wouldn't go through this process. But from a risk management point of view, it would be difficult to say and look at the rules and look at the analysis.
But it wasn't an extra 25. It was an extra 125 per gun,
I'm sorry, 125, but 25 or more over the ethics rules. Because the ethics rules would apply to other vendors, too, including Adamson, because that was the vendor. But they would have been able to accept $100 below whatever price. The challenge also is, what is that price? What is the baseline price at which they're getting a discount? And so these are complicated issues. These are complicated rules. So I think that the analysis is very important.
It is complicated, right?
Yes.
But so I think if we take a step back and we from the 40,000 foot perspective, I think we can all agree that the whole process needs to be tightened up.
Absolutely.
Is there any disagreement with that?
Nope.
No, and that's why we've taken on steps to make sure that we've highlighted these issues, and especially for the Form 700 filers where this particular ethics rule may apply, making sure they understand what the gift restrictions are.
I agree with the president, and I also agree with what's going on between you two guys in saying let's the Inspector General made recommendations based on certain information. You accept some of those recommendations, others you'd like to tweak. I understand that as well. The thing that I had to look at, and I read this thing 40 times and read the supporting documents 35 times, is intent and in ethics. And I don't find one officer had any intent to skirt any ethics rules or try and maneuver any manufacturer at all. Do I think that the ethics rules should be part of the manual? Yes, I do. But as far as intent goes, if there was an error because it was $25 or $2 or $200, then that was it. But what I look at is intent. And was there an intentional ethical violation by any officer of the 46? I don't see it. I didn't see it, and I can't find anything that says it was.
Commissioners, what I would suggest is let the department take the recommendations as put forward by the Inspector General, make some modifications, work with the Inspector General to make some modifications so we both agree on the recommendations and bring them back to the Commission. And we will also include the training pieces on ethics, and we'll detail those in greater detail for the Commission.
Thank you, Chief. I certainly agree with that recommendation. Earlier I had said that I wanted to give the IG's office an opportunity to respond to the three areas that the department addressed. And if there's anything to add, then I'd like to hear it. But if not, then we can move.
Commissioner, I think for a large part of the conversation, there was a lot of expended energy on things that weren't really central to the report. I mean, we were talking about sole sourcing and the characterization of it. There was no characterization. It was just laying out the facts of it in there. The core subjects I think there is a general agreement on, which is tightening up the product evaluation manual, looking at some of the ethics provisions. To the extent that there's a disagreement between the department, I'll be more than happy to review that with the department and let them know what we have found and some of the discussions that we've had with the Ethics Commission and the like, so that we can all be on the same page and so that we can tell them what we've identified in consultation with some of the city experts on the matter. And we'll be more than happy to review that information, work with them, and come up with some tailored recommendations, concrete steps going forward that account for all their concerns and actually implementing and operating the system, as well as our concerns on behalf of the Commission for appropriate oversight. So be more than happy to do that. I think there's a lot of discussion that's going on, but we're getting away from really the core subject, which is, does the procurement process need to be tightened up? And I think everyone's in agreement that yes, it does. Does there need to be greater education for department personnel on what is a conflict of interest, what may be a conflict of interest, and regardless of whether there is or is not, is there a concern about the appearance of one, and should we be trying to guard people from putting themselves in a position that may appear to be a conflict? And I think the answer should be yes. So to that extent, we're more than willing to work with the department and tell them some of the expertise that we've been able to gain through this process and help them along with that inquiry, and then come to some, I think, mutually beneficial recommendations.
Great.
So in line with that, I would entertain a motion that would include the following. Approve the Inspector General's report, direct the department and the Inspector General to discuss the recommendations, any modification to those recommendations, and report back to the Commission in 30 days with any modifications and changes to the recommendations. I'd also like the Department Inspector General to contact the Office of the City Attorney and the General Services Department to gain their assistance in formulating the recommendations that will come back to the Commission.
I'd be happy to make that motion.
We do have 7 public comment cards, sir.
I'll second it.
Okay, so then we'll hold the vote. And any other Commissioner questions or comments on this? No. Okay, then how many public comments? do we have?
7, sir.
7. Okay, let's go to public comment on this item,
Okay, the
please.
first 4 speakers, Red Chief Hunt, Black Stealth Ramirez, Ted Hayes, and Prentice Jenkins.
Thank you again. My name is Red Chief Hunt. Now let's reframe this whole thing. Well, Smith & Wesson's got the contract politically wise because they're supporting somebody in city council or the city attorney's office. Let's underline that and read in between the lines. Now, the practice that we're practicing, who the contracts go to, I think that should be done by lottery system. I think we should make a lottery out of that and pull it, and so no individual be responsible for it. To practice what we're doing here is trying to save money for the department. The Inspector General, I don't know if this should be in the Inspector General's hands because I'm always calling back for the federal consent decree to overlook everything that the department does now due to its failure to provide adequate service and proper bids and things like that. So on that note, like I said, this is bigger than you guys, and this is bigger. Whoever got the contract was with Smith & Wesson. They actually gave some money to one of our candidates who was running for either city attorney's office or the mayor's office. So be aware, this issue is bigger than you guys.
Next.
Black Stealth Ramirez.
Can you hold for a second because the media is leaving, most of the media is leaving, and I want to give them a chance to leave. Okay?
Thank you. I first blame the Department of Justice and Inspector Generals for rewarding the wetbacks and Chango Latino gangbangers, then the LAPD and all law enforcement who were rewarded the Latino Chango gangbangers and wetbacks, including the ACLU who fired Sheriff Libaca.
We stay on topic.
Thank you. And again, in essence, the Department of Justice and Inspector General's office helped perpetuate these Chango monstrous gang epidemics. And truth be told,
last warning.
Again, the judges and city attorney's office have also helped perpetuate.
So that next speaker, please.
Mr. Ted Hayes, followed by Prentice Jenkins and Wayne Himmler.
Procurement. There's a broken camera in the lobby. It's an x-ray machine. And so the officers, they have to resort to illegal search and seizure. They do what we call stop and frisk because the x-ray machine doesn't work. It hasn't worked for 6 months now.
Mr. Hayes, but talk about the procurement aspects, okay?
Do they buy x-ray machines? Do they? Can they procure an x-ray machine?
There's no speaking from the audience. First warning to you. One more warning and you're out.
Mr. Soboroff, I suggest you consider what I'm saying and the realm in which I'm making the comment. An x-ray machine needs to be repaired or purchased. These may be the people who can do that for you if you request it. Another thing they might procure is something that will alert the audience as to what agenda item you're addressing at this time. I have no idea. The officers along the wall have no idea either. Who do you go to find out what agenda item you're on? Because no other commission, not the city council, no one says, once we start talking about an item, you cannot address it. You see, what happens is sometimes gentlemen like you have before you say things that provoke people to want to comment on what they have to say. So they get a card, they dash the number down, they try to hand it in, they say, I'm sorry, closed. So let's have something that indicates, like the city council has, the agenda item you're discussing at this time. All right? Now, what we have to have also is some way we can look at the video cameras the officers carry when they were here when you cleared the room last time. I'll tell you about that later on. Thank you.
Prentice Jenkins, followed by Wayne Himmler, and then Michael Williams.
I'm not clear here. Are you saying we have dangerous guns out there that have that these guns have strikers where they don't fire when a cop is in trouble? Is that what you're saying? Do these guns have hairpin triggers too? And you say you recall these guns, and they've also said that they used to work with Glock, but now they're working with Smith & Wesson because one of the guys at Glock checked the wrong box. I don't think you want to work with someone who checks the wrong box. That doesn't make any sense at all. You don't want to work with Glock anymore. You want to work with Smith & Wesson. They didn't check the wrong box. When you start checking the wrong box, what does that mean? That means you don't know what you're doing. You need to determine which gun is better. Is it Glock that's better, or is it Smith & Wesson? Do you want to work with Glock because you always work with them, but Smith & Wesson is a better gun? If Smith & Wesson is a better gun, to hell with Glock. You want Smith & Wesson. You don't want cops out there firing their weapons and they don't fire because those cops won't come home. So my suggestion is that you stop thinking about worrying about that Glock checked the wrong box. You guys need to worry about the right gun. If you're working with Smith & Wesson and they got the right gun, that's who you need to be working with, and not Glock. Glock's the problem. A few years ago, Glock had a problem with the hairpin trigger. Do they still have those hairpin triggers? Yeah. What you need to do, folks, it sounds like semantics to me. What sounds like? It sounds like you got the right gun company, Smith & Wesson, because when it comes down to a shootout, you want the gun that fires, not the one that doesn't.
Thank you for your comments.
Smith & Wesson, when you got to get the fucking job done, man, it's S&W, baby. It's S&W. I'll never forget the day my daddy took me to the gun store when I was 18, and he got me my first gun. And what was it? An Uzi. I didn't buy an S&W. I bought a fucking Uzi, Model B Mini carbine with a 50-round fucking barrel clip in it. All right? So he bought a Smith & Wesson 6-shooter 357 mag. Now today, you can't have an Uzi. Had to get rid of it. Why? Because of the way you vote like a bunch of dumbasses, you take away our gun rights. But that good old Smith & Wesson, he's still rocking. Took him out to the range last year, oiled him up. Boom, 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 boom. Right through the fucking target. So when you need the job done, S&W. Don't go for Glock. That Glock's in all the videos, I know. I'm a mother kid in the hood, yo. I get the Glock, yo. I shoot the cop, yo. I'm motherfucking cool, yo. The LAPD, KKK. Don't listen to that. It's just a commercial. Reality, you're in a gunfight. Assholes are coming in over your wall. I take your 6-shooter, man. Get them fuckers with that 6-shot, because you only need just 1 or 2 clicks, and it's over. 12 fucking feet this way, 12 feet this way. That fucker's anywhere there, he loses an arm or an asshole. So, you guys, you want to go with all that fancy rap music video guns. You like video games. These cops want guns at work. Trust the professionals. Trust me. S&W works. S&W forever.
Don't seem to penalize any police for breaking procedures or protocols. The officers that shot Ezell Ford you found one of them broke every protocol. What has happened to them? What issue have you guys brought up to discipline them for breaking protocol and breaking their training? Why are we making more protocol when it's not going to be followed? You know, you guys sit up here in your chairs. You guys don't let people into the room because you say it's at capacity. I'm looking at the room. Hey, it sure is packed in here. It's full. We know what the game is. We know you don't want us to be up here speaking our mind, doing our freedom of speech. We know that. But you guys don't understand that we're going to come back here each and every week until you guys get it through your head that we're not leaving and we're the people, and you guys got to respect what we say and act on it. We're not asking for things that are ridiculous. We're asking that officers who broke protocol and ended up killing a young man be fired for that. I think that's reasonable. They broke the protocol that this board and the police department approved. And it ended up killing an innocent young man who was just walking and minding his own business. And you guys look at us and take it as a fucking joke. That's the problem with this commission. That's why people are in here turning up every week, because you guys don't listen to us. You guys don't speak for us. You guys don't do what you're supposed to do. We are the people.
Thank you for your statement.
Don't thank me, because you're not listening. You know what you can do to thank me? Actually do something. Instead of sitting up here like a black puppet.
And that is the final card on this item, sir.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
We're now on item number 5, public comment.
Thank you.
We have 15 cards at this time. The first 5, Prentice Jenkins, Red Chief Hunt.
Since we have 15 cards, I'm going to limit the speakers to 1 minute each. Okay. Let's see how many we have. If we can have people line up against the wall. If we have under 10 or under, we'll give you a full 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll call them. Prentice Jenkins, Red Chief Hunt, Agustin Cebeda, Colleen Granderson, Pastor Q. Jean Marie, Luciano Moore, Algernon Dorian Matlock, Brandon Glenn, Agustin Cebeda, and Black Stealth Ramirez.
Okay, we'll go with the full 2 minutes.
I'm sorry.
So let the record reflect, Mr. President, that the speakers that were called that are not standing, they have forfeited their time to speak.
I'm sorry, we do have
Yeah, you need to stand up so we can do a count.
Dorma Guzman, Riddell Jones, Tut
Mr. Hunt,
Hayes.
you're not running the meeting.
No, you can stand in line so we can.
Ted Hayes.
No, just stand in line so we can take a count, please. Damn it. Just stand in line so we can take a valuable count.
Ted Hayes, Wayne Himmler. I can't read this name. It's Pena Vargas, Jacqueline Richardson. That's it.
Ms. Richardson is here.
So you want like about 11?
So it looks like we have 12 speakers.
Yes, it does, sir. You can limit to 1 minute.
1 minute. Go down to 1 minute.
We're going to limit the speak. We have 12 speakers. We're gonna limit the speakers to 1 minute each. You know what, actually, let's do 90 seconds each.
90 seconds. You need to put 90.
Please call the cards.
We got 60.
Okay. Prentice Jenkins and the Red
We
Chief
can only
Hunt.
do it by the minute. Sorry, we can only do it by the minute. We're going to limit it to 1 minute each.
I'd like my 2 minutes, please.
You can only get in a minute, sir.
That's only 1 minute, folks.
1 minute, sir.
1 minute.
Restricted speech again. I'd like someone to handle my issue of filing a complaint against the Los Angeles Board of Police Commission. I want to know who's going to handle that and who's going to get back with me.
I will, Mr. Jenkins.
Okay, thank you, Mr. T. Fank. I'd also like to talk with an officer today about filing a complaint against the Los Angeles Police Department. I don't want anyone to take my number and tell me they're going to call me back, because they didn't. I'd like to file that complaint today. Who do I talk to about filing a complaint? Does anyone know?
Yeah, you can go right over to the Bradbury building on 3rd Street and file a complaint.
With the police, I can't file it here?
You can file it over at Bradbury on 3rd Street, 3rd and Broadway.
3rd and Broadway. Okay, Bradbury.
Yeah, I'm going over there.
Yeah, the last time I filed it here. Is there an officer? I don't really want to go to the Bradbury building. Is there an officer here I can file it with? Does anyone know on the board? Yes or no?
Mr. Jenkins, if you'll have a seat and staff the meeting, I'll have a supervisor contact you, okay?
Red Chief Hunt.
As I say again, once again, Democrats solve problems and put people first. Thank you, Chief Paysinger. I know that you are the first chief that was over with me over at that building. You are the original chief. You didn't come from a commander spot. You have to step up your game and do work for the community. You're good for community outreach. Number 2 is I want Alberca out of that station, the Pacific Division. Policy and procedure is you cannot go from a Captain 1 to a Captain 3 in the same station and do the internship there. You guys broke policy and procedure. Let's get it together. I know what's going on deep in my heart. She needs to get out of there, and I need to have my station back, and we need to bring it back, all of our good officers that was over there in the Pacific Division. Get that done for me. I appreciate it. You cannot go from 1 to 3 without transferring out. Policy and procedure, I respect deeply. Thank you, Michael Hunt.
Thank you for your comments.
Agustin Cebada.
Yes, I'm here. I'm kind of pissed off at this guy Johnson. You're supposed to have 2 minutes. I've been waiting here all goddamn morning long, and I can't get to speak about a woman who got killed by 2 people, two pigs with guns, a trainee and a probation officer. Is that how you train the trainees to have them kill somebody? Is that how they do training? You know who I'm speaking about, don't you? It happened Sunday morning. Andy Guzman, this is her boyfriend. They were about to get married, and now he has to go over there to where he was filing for some papers for her to become a citizen, to get a residency. Now he's got to go and tell him the thing's off. And I decide I need to hear him be heard here in this place. And even though I'm only got 10 seconds left, 9 seconds, you know, for the benefit of the people in South Central who are the subject matter of, you're going to have $5,000 to give these people down there. That I have my name on that again too. It's about this thing of giving $5,000 for the, I believe it's the group down there.
Thank you for your comments,
in that
sir.
area.
Thank you for your comments.
Colleen Granderson. Pastor Q. Jean Marie. Luciano Moore.
This isn't the last year here of this. When you get over a couple of million, $5 million suit against you, and that's because of you. And Soboroff, you know, we need a
Thank you for your comments.
democratic.
Your time is up.
I don't care. My time is never up. Your time is up. Angie's time was up yesterday morning, Sunday morning.
Sir, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to ask you to step away from the. I'm going to have to ask you to step away from the podium. Your time is up.
I think, does he get to speak for his woman, his fiance that he was going to get married with?
Has he submitted a speaker
What is
card?
his name? Does he have a card, sir?
I have another time up there. My name's for twice for talking about that. Another thing. Don't speak once.
The next speaker, Algernon Dorian Matlock.
That's you guys don't give a damn. A woman who was harmless, sitting on the curb, was killed by your fascist faggots who got machine guns right there, and you're all pendejos. We need an elected commission. You guys, Soboroff, you've been there forever. You're like a doorknob around here.
Algernon Dorian Matlock.
I think Colleen was first.
Colleen. Hi. Colleen Granderson.
I'm Algernon Dorian Matlock, but I think she was first.
Colleen Granderson, please.
Hi, my name is Colleen Granderson, and the reason why I'm here today is because it's just a little small problem I have. We have a prayer group outside, and we always pray for the homeless. And it was 2 incidents that kind of disturbed me. One, this guy had heroin in his system, and we had to give him water and call the paramedics. But the second one, they had told us that we had to lay him on the side of the ground. And I need to know, what is the policy for that? Because that, I don't think I should leave a person on the ground or anything like that. So can someone tell me? I don't know.
Sorry, in public comment, we're not allowed to respond unless it's an agendized item.
Thank you.
Thank you for your statement.
The next speaker, can you please state your name?
Can you state your name, please?
I'm Luciano Moore. I was here week before last and 2 weeks before that with the same issue of the air division running me away from L.A. I've worked in the city for over 50 years. I put my nest egg together for my retirement. And now I come to retirement. I cannot retire in L.A. I got to leave and go to Riverside and live. And even when I'm in Riverside, they take the small crafts and come around my house. And if I have a visitor, I can't even have peace in my house. I didn't even know that LAPD would leave LA to another county. I went to Kern County before, and they followed me the same way. I come here to seek help. Please, can you move me back into LA? Please, can you get them off my head? Because everywhere I go, 24 hours a day, they're always around me, and I can't do nothing. If I wash in my car, they circle me.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Thing on my roof, they're around me. Please, I'm asking Please, I'm asking everybody to help me to move back
thank you for your comments.
my home in LA. Please, I'm here for that reason alone.
Please have a seat, sir.
The next speaker, Algernon Dorian Matlock.
Hi, my name is Algernon Dorian Matlock. I grew up in Watts, California. I went to 92nd Street School Elementary, where I was the best in my school, got an award from the president. I went to Charles Drew, where I was kicked out because one of my friends bought a BB gun.
Excuse me.
I went to Jordan High School, where I played football, academic decathlon, tennis.
I'll pause the clock for you. Just can we give respect to the speaker, please? Can you give him a few more?
I went to Jordan High School, where I played football, tennis, was on academic decathlon and advanced placement. And I'm saying all this to say that I'm a black man that grew up in L.A., and your officers have maybe a class issue where they don't respect people of low income. Every time I run up on a copy, I see the fucking nose rep, but I really don't give a shit. You know what I mean? I came here, this is my first time coming here, and officers treat me bad my whole life. Threaten to call children's services. They just don't have any respect for people of low income. And somehow you guys got to turn that around, because LA has a huge poverty level. It has a huge level of low income people, gang members that you complain about, and stuff like that. It's in the officers' attitude. They have their own culture of hating us, and they are my enemies. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Next speaker, Brandon Glenn. Or can you state your name, please?
Connect Pena Vargas.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that I really feel like you guys need to work on making the policies and procedures for accessing these meetings a lot more clear and consistent. I understand that it's a difficult job to be open to public comment like this, and there's a lot of anger and frustration out there that you guys are having to host here. But I think that when you limit people's access and give people the runaround, it increases the amount of frustration and anger. You know, I came here this morning with a group of young people in a civics class who wanted to find out more about these issues, and we came so calm, ready to just listen. I didn't even intend to speak today, but being told to walk around the block and enter through the back, being told to wait in line, we waited in the sun, being told that just wait for the seats to be empty and then we can enter, and then the seats were empty. You know, we walk in and people are leaving and they still say we can't go in. You know, and then walking in and realizing that there's tons of empty seats, but for some reason we were made to sit outside. We were yelled at and made to feel like somehow we're just not welcome here. You know, I think you guys just need to be much more clear about what the policies and procedures are. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Why, thank you. We got our new Uncle Tom here in the middle. You don't give me 1 minute. Thank you there, Mr. Johnson. You make such a good Uncle Tom. Now, I told them all that last time, man. I went over to City Hall, my friend Herb Wesson over there, and there was a vacancy, and they get rid of the black lady. I say, he come back with an Uncle Tom, and he do it. And that's why he turned us all into niggas. See, I go over here this morning, they make me walk all around the motherfucking building, and I try to come in with the empty chairs, and they say the meeting closed. You got to wait, slave. So I wait. So you been treating all... They ain't no white people no more. We all just house niggas now. Well, we're serving your Uncle Tom. So you're doing a good job, Uncle Tom. But just remember one thing, fo. When you outside your circle of friends, you still black. and they gonna turn your ass over there one day. If you don't obey the master, obey your white motherfucking master, because I know I was a slave, but you don't know yet.
Ted Hayes.
Thank you for your comments.
Any audio or video recording of an open public meeting made for whatever purpose by or at the direction of the local agency shall be subject to inspection pursuant to the Public Records Act. The officers who were videoing the clearing of the room were wearing body cameras. Some had cameras that had red lights on them while they're being operated. We want to see the information they gathered on those cameras based upon 54953.5. They were not allowing us to come in because they said the room was filled. I've got some photographic evidence showing the empty seats. They were not allowing us to come in saying, we are not doing an overflow room today. So where are you? Do you allow overflow or don't you? Is that part of your new rules or not? You had overflow before you created the rules. So you're simply using a police state to keep us out. It won't work. You'll find out.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello. This is a matter of principle. We must restore America. Instead of putting all our warriors and wounded heroes, our beloved military veterans, on the street, we are pandering and we are subsidizing all these nosy, jealous, violent, stalking, racist, hate-mongering wetbacks and gangbangers who are combative, who are hostile, who are violent and diabolical, as you have seen. Again, I stand my ground. I'm not a chupanalgas. I stand here. I'm not a butt kisser. I believe in the rule of law. Had you enforced the rule of law, many of us would not be where we are today. Again, I stand my ground out of respect and dignity to my father and my mother's memory. I stand firm. I will not bow down to these wetbacks and gangbangers, nor will I lick their asses. I came here by the rule of law. Having said that, God bless Donald Trump. He will restore America if he gets voted in. These gangbangers and wetbacks will be deported, and God bless, we need the military. We cannot handle the gang epidemic. We need the military. God bless Donald.
Thank you for your
Our final speaker card, Jacqueline Richardson.
I wonder if a few officers can bypass police academy. I have another wonder. I wonder if the department has employed any holographs. You might not know it, but about 3 months ago, Jet Propulsion Lab, JPL in Pasadena, gave a holograph Olympics. They offered $1 million prize for the nation. There were 30 of them that had the best holograph. As you know, holographs are highly complex machines. They walk, they talk, they act. They can perform, sing, dance, whatever you wish. As highly complex machines, some of them look human. They're very highly efficient.
Is that the final?
That's the final card on this item. We're now on item number 6, closed session. We do have 2 comment cards before we recess. We have Wayne Himmler and Ted Hayes. Would you like 2 minutes, sir, or 1?
2 minutes.
2.
Yes, my favorite part of the meeting, police abuse. And today we have involving a canine contact. And this poor dog was out in the field, and he was just doing what dogs do. He was standing in the back of the car, listening to his police master, just being a nice doggy. And then what happened? You told him to go out and eat one of the people outside. And as a result, there was a canine contact requiring hospitalization. Now, the reason that you use dogs, you got to go back to the 60s when they used to have the civil rights, and they had all those wonderful southern big fat white cops, and they used to have those big huge dogs. They take a chunk out of your ass when they bite. And I mean, and who can blame a poor puppy? I mean, you look at the dog after it happens, and you just look at the dog and you're like, the dog didn't do it, because dogs don't bite and destroy people. People destroy and beat people. So the dog only does what his master requires him to do. You train dogs to kill people. You train dogs that are innocent little puppies to grow up to become people killers. Now, I want the dog to be ruled innocent of this contact requiring hospitalization, and I don't want you putting this dog down, because one of the things you do is you put the dog down to defend your stupid fucking ass by claiming the animal was too violent. No, the animal is fine. It's the cop, the psychopath that he's with, that told him to attack people. That's why these dogs do that. So, again, shout out to the dogs. Keep doing your thing.
Mr. Hayes?
Thank you for your comments.
That's my question also. Does this canine be put down? That's what happens if a dog bites a person. Usually the dog is put down. They don't consider dogs who bite worthy of surviving. So I don't know what you're going to decide out there, whether the officer, as this gentleman just portrayed, sick the dog on someone to the extent the person was hospitalized, not simply getting medications and bandages, hospitalized. I would suggest that's a severe injury inflicted by that police dog. So that's the question. How do you handle police dogs who don't obey commands? I would believe the officer issued a command to stand down, to cease whatever you're doing, and if the dog was well trained, the dog responded appropriately. But if the dog was not well trained, he doesn't deserve to wear the title police dog any longer, and he should at least be discharged from the force. So that's a curious question, and you will come back giving us your rendition of how you decided on the dog and the other cases, I would imagine. We'll be here listening with bated breath concerning the future of this canine dog.
And that is the final card.
Okay.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item numbers 6A, 1, 2, and 3 in accordance with Government Code 54957.
Plenty of seats, gentlemen.
The Board of Police Commissioners has concluded its work in closed session. We are back in open session. In closed session, item number 6A1 was discussed and the Chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. In closed session, item number 6A2 was discussed and the Chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. And in closed session, item number 6A3 was discussed and the Chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. Mr. President, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Don't hurt me this way. Don't touch me this way.
When a physical encounter occurs between man and machine, the machine always wins. Please, don't lose. Obey all the rules of the road.
Don't let me make the same mistake again.
Hi, I'm Shannon Lamert Park. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35,
Our city, our channel.
Hi, I'm Rasha Goel.
And I'm Gil Reyes. Welcome to Latitude, the here and now of business and trade news from the Port of Los Angeles.
In this edition,
you will travel with me to the Inland Empire and discover why the Port of LA is #1 in the nation when it comes to warehouse and distribution center space.
Let's get started exploring this edition of Latitude.
At the Port of Los Angeles, things come in 3 sizes: big, bigger, and biggest. Big, as in 40